This episode is brought to you by the Pest Rangers. Finding insects in your home can be a real pest. I know I felt that way when I discovered termites living rent-free in my house. But thanks to the team at the Pest Rangers, I'm no longer bugging out over this issue. So if any creepy crawlers are cramping your style, there's no ifs, ands, or bugs about it. You gotta call the Pest Rangers. For more information on how to rid your home from unwanted pests, call the Pest Rangers today at 570-826-1114 or visit them online at thepestrangers.com. This episode is brought to you by Burn, the fitness company behind the Today Show approved Burn Board. If I'm being honest, working out can be a real chore, especially as a new dad in desperate need of sleep and cardio. Burn is founded by NEPA native Jimmy T. Martin, and his Burn Board offers a low-impact core and cardio experience unlike anything I've done before. They have hundreds of on-demand workouts that are great for beginners, seasoned athletes, and out-of-shape podcast hosts who love supporting small businesses. My wife and I use it pretty frequently throughout the week, and it's honestly a great way to burn a ton of calories without burning a ton of cash. Not to mention, it's a great tool for skiers, runners, wrestlers, and hockey players. Jimmy is offering all On the Stacks listeners 15% off when they use the code STACKS15. Visit theburn.com today to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15 at checkout. Again, that's theburn, THEBRRN.com to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15. It's time to get on board today with Burn. This episode is brought to you by Blue Door Financial. Blue Door Financial will help you save money and reduce taxes to live a fuller financial life. To learn more, visit Blue Door Financial online at BLUdoorfinancial.com. That's BLUdoorfinancial.com.
But the reality is that, I think if you work hard, do the right thing, fear no man along the way, you can go far, but if you don't do the right thing, eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going, and if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up.
Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr. This is the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with former Wall Street Managing Director, Manny Santayana. What's up, podcast? Episode 127 of the On the Stacks podcast here in the Blue Door studio. Welcome to the show, Manny. How you doing?
Hey, Bill. How are you? Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you here, and I feel like we couldn't go any further without giving a shout out to our friend Jimmy T. Martin for introducing
Love
the two
Jimmy.
of us.
That was a great connection.
Yeah, so thank you to Jimmy. We know he's listening,
Yes.
so I hope we make him proud during this episode.
He's running the Burn in New York, right?
He is. He's crazy.
Good for
Guy's
him.
crazy. Yeah, I love him. All right, so I wasn't sure if we should start the podcast off with like a Jordan Belfort style, chest beat, hum,
so funny.
I wasn't sure if I should start off like that, but yeah. So you spent a lot of time in New York City on Wall Street.
Yes, sir.
A lot of highs, a lot of lows.
Yeah.
Is ringing the opening bell on Wall Street all it's cracked up to be?
It's fun. It's fun. It's a good emotional moment if you never did it before. I highly recommend if you can get in on the floor of New York. And NASDAQ is electronic. You know what I mean? So it's a little automated, but it's a great studio. I prefer the NASDAQ studio over the New York, only I guess because I work there.
Yeah. Spent a lot of time there.
And it's a little bit smarter, faster, cheaper. Okay.
Yeah. So I researched your Wall Street background quite a bit. And I read, you just mentioned the electronic trading.
Yes.
And, from what I read about you, your electronic trading team was rated number 1.
Correct.
How did that happen?
Yeah. So I was working at a Swiss company called Credit Suisse, back in 2000. And I'd spent years in Boston, both at Fidelity Investments and State Street Bank, and I was doing rudimentary electronic trading. And I met these severely, highly academic people that had all these, I'll call it forward-thinking thoughts back in Boston, because it's a big academic community. Then I went to New York because they like the name Manny Santayana better in New York City than they do. Like Billy O'Brien works and Billy Corcoran works better in Boston. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I found my way to New York City, and then when I was there were some free thinkers there. And I joined, Credit Suisse, and I kind of introduced them to the concept of electronic trading. And with that, it just kind of snowballed. So I had a gentleman by the name of Bobby Jane, and Bobby was a free-thinking 27-year-old guy, and I was like 47. So he was like 20 years my junior. But he loved the fact that you could hit the button, trade the world, rather than calling up Joey Bag of Donuts on the trading floor with his cousin that runs around like a clerk, shuffling paper. And so, he thought it was like more efficient, so he thought it was like smart, fast, and cheap, to hit the button trade the world. So that came about. And then one day when he realized I was connecting people, buyers to sellers, quickly to an exchange, he basically said, Manny, I have this other idea. It's called algorithmic trading. Do you think we could do all this connectivity that you did and layer an algo on top of it? And I'm all about yes and now, not later maybe. And he just loved that. And so he introduced me to his traders, and I was a marketing, sales, and distribution guy. And then the rest was history. So we got together. The traders finally loved me. They're a little skeptical because I was a little high-wired up kind of guy.
A little high energy?
And they're a little bit quantitative, methodic. A plus B equals C equals D. And I'm like, you know what? Life is hyperbolic. It's not linear, right?
Yeah,
so I'm all about success is definitely hyperbolic.
Yeah.
You can't tell where it's all going to come from, but you got to be receptive. So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
And then we start getting 1 or 2 customers, and then we have beta test customers, and they were like Deutsche Bank, Putnam.
And what year was this?
This is 2002.
Okay, so 2002. This is when you started this electronic trading team.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it was called Advanced Execution Services out of Credit Suisse.
Gotcha.
It was very rudimentary. Me and a guy by the name of Dan Matheson, my partner.
All right. So how did you get it to like the top of the world?
Well,
Literally.
it was interesting. We were rated number 8 back then, and then people found out that we were definitely smarter, faster, cheaper. We could do faster execution more efficiently with better performance just by hitting a button trading the world, because the algorithms really anticipated a future forecast. Rather than somebody's opinion, we had data. We had like over 120 data points that we collectively assimilated into a model that when you hit the button, the computer would actually decide when to trade more efficiently, whether it was, should I trade the stock in NASDAQ? Is it dual listed somewhere? Is it in a dark pool? Is it at some other odd bank? That kind of thing. And it would wait till the price performance came into line, and then it would rapid fire, just like a gorilla would be hiding in the bushes and just come out and attack, and then take up all the liquidity and all the pricing that you could as fast as possible. Everything was sub-second. So by the time you call a trader, you get the trade off, that could be a minute or 2 minutes. This is completely sub-second.
So this is like literally split second trading.
Yes.
And you're, just operating on margins, before like the other guy can make a phone call in
Correct.
2 minutes. Is that what you're
That's
trying
correct.
to say?
And that's where a lot of the money was made in the early days. So think about it, like if it takes 2 seconds for a trader to do it, or 2 minutes for a trader to do it, and if you can get your trading down to a second, like second,
that's
sub-second, so milli, micro, nano. So I was kidding one of my quants. I said, dude, you got to name your kids milli, micro, nano.
On the Stacks will be back in a flash after a word from our sponsor.
I grew up in a household where I watched my dad in courtrooms stand up for rights of victims. And as far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to do the same thing. The pleasure that he got out of that is the same pleasure that I wanted to get out of life. And I'm proud that I've been able to do that.
And now back to our chat on the Stacks. So, all right. So you went from number 8 to
number 8.
number 1. Like what kind of money are we talking?
It took about 8 years. Well, we were doing only like 2.5 million the first year. The second year, that was like 02, 03, we did like 14 million. And then like 04, 05 was like 36 million. Then it went to 72 million, 108. And then we did 350. Then we went global. We went over to Asia, Hong Kong, London, et cetera. And then we had the whole world kind of wrapped up. We were doing close to $1 billion. So our peak year, I think, was like 2010 after the crisis hit. So when the crisis hit and people were running like crazy and scared, and I call it the case of the FUDs, fears, uncertainties, doubts, and suspicions. That's what the FUDs are, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so we took away all the FUDs because people were very uncertain about everything. So they said, let's deal with some certainty. So let's blame the computer if it doesn't execute well. And we said, follow your dreams, get in there, hit the button. So we ran around with the sales force. And, we had smoking hot chicks that were really smart quants. And we had good looking dudes, and they were really, attentive, proactive, and knew how to prospect, qualify, present, handle objections, and close business. And they all had it down to a systematic methodology, and we dominated the world that way. And then we ran a crazy equity trading event called the Credit Suisse Equity Trading Forum, for years, and it's still alive till today at the fabulous Fontainebleau, Miami Beach.
Awesome.
We started with 17 clients, went up to over 500.
Wow.
With wonderful guest speakers like Rudy Giuliani, Alan Greenspan, who else? Yeah, just a bunch
and you
of them.
got to like actually meet and mingle with these guys.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
Wow.
And we invite them. We paid them as speakers.
Sure.
Because they want to get paid. I get it. That's what it's about.
But you're
right?
able to build relationships with them.
Yeah, we did. It was great. Colin Powell was an awesome one. He was like the most fantastic speaker at the time. Everybody's running around down Vizcaya in Miami Beach, and everybody's around having cocktails in their hands, just talking with clients, stuff like that. And we said the event started exactly at 7:00, and now it's like 7:01, and we see one guy with his hands folded sitting at the desk. Sitting at the table, and it's Colin Powell. He was there exactly at 7:00. And when he sat down, everybody else sat down. And then when he stood up, everybody gave him a resounding round of applause and then stood up on their feet and brought the house down for Colin Powell. That was right after the Gulf crisis.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
So
that was a leadership talk.
Yeah. So you went from 2 million to over $1 billion.
Yeah, 2.5 to over $1 billion. Yeah,
in 8 years.
47 countries. Yeah.
And how much? And so at this point, you were what, managing a team? How big was your team?
It was the sales team was only about 38 people. The technology people was about 100. Out of that 100, we had a subset of about 20 people that were client service, answering phones, handling orders. But the proactive outbound salespeople, because I always said there are no clients in the office. I don't want to see you in the office. Maybe to come in and do a handshake and do a summary. But we had about 138 people between technology, client service, and proactive salespeople.
So how does a guy from northeastern Pennsylvania, from a blue-collar family, blue-collar background, end up on Wall Street?
Oh, man, I guess it's all about what your parents taught you. Just do the right thing and fear no man.
What does that mean?
That means
explain that.
So, when you grow up, I grew up on one of these, they call it Catholic environments. I like to call it Catlick, okay, because that's the way they talk around it. I was a Catholic,
right?
So anyway, but I grew up in a guilt-ridden environment. My mom and dad were very disciplined people. They went to work. My dad was a trucker, former dairy farmer, military guy, and my mom was a seamstress, dress factory worker, piecework apparel. Working in those. I don't call it sweatshops, but sometimes they were kind of like that because she would go from different place to different place. But what they did was they always showed up on time. They always came home on time. They always treated their kids the right way. The house was full of love, and and that's where you learn to do the right thing.
So you learn a lot just from like observing, growing up, watching your parents.
Yeah, just doing the right thing. If you didn't do the right thing, you got the belt. Back then, capital punishment was really good.
Yeah. Were there any character building moments that you'd say you learned most from your mom or your dad growing up?
Yeah, I mean, there's my mom always wanted to serve her family. So she would do like the right thing for everybody all the time. She was a very kind, gentle person. Never met a kinder person. She raised 3 boys, and it kind of. Like when I got older, it kind of broke my heart to think that like at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I lived in one of these coal mining houses with a dirt floor down in the basement, and she'd be down there, shoveling the coal, putting it in the coal furnace. You know what I mean? I'm like, that chick rocks. You know what I mean? But I thought of that as I got older. When you're a kid, you didn't know any better. You just went down there, watched her do it. When you're like 5, 6 years old, sit on the steps, and she'd be like lighting a fire with newspaper, a little bit of wood, and then a lot of coal, and the house got warm. So that to me is like a discipline in itself, just taking care of your kids, and then not only feeding them, whatever, and getting them ready for school, and then ship them off to school like by 7 o'clock, and then she'd be off to the dress factories, especially in the 70s when inflation hit the roof like it is right now. So she needed to go back to work after she raised me being 5 and then being like 13, 14, 15 in the 70s. All of a sudden, your mom had to go back to work because there wasn't enough money. You know what I mean? And so she used her skills to maximize it. So to me, that's like a champion, serving your family, and that's all she ever wanted to do. My dad, he was a trucker, dairy farmer first, grew up in Chase, and then he went to World War II, Philippines, very disciplined, kind of guy. Came back, ran the farm, realized that the farming life wasn't going to like cut it, as things evolved in the farming industry, with 7 kids, and my grandfather died. So there wasn't a lot of leadership, around that. So I think the whole family just dispersed and went off to like manufacturing. Things were the big things. So my dad worked at Leslie Fay, and he was a trucker for Leslie Fay. And then I remember him doing the right thing one day. It was 1972 after the flood, or right before the flood, I think it was actually. And he got hijacked by the Black Panthers coming through the Lincoln Tunnel. And it was just kind of crazy, right? And I'm like, holy crap, you got hijacked. And so we got hijacked by the Black Panthers, and the Black Panthers weren't even black. They were Puerto Ricans that worked with the Black Panthers, and they had already killed 2 guys, but they kind of liked him when he hijacked.
They killed like 2 other truck drivers?
They killed other guys. Yeah, it wasn't 2 other truck drivers, just other people in the city that they killed. It was a heavy 70s thing where Rudy Giuliani was starting to clean up, and so, but it was still very uncertain times. And he was carrying probably like $1 million worth of dresses.
Your dad was?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So coming through Lincoln Tunnel, they just jump on the truck, put the gun up to you, window, open up the door, put it in your stomach, get you out of the truck. They take their truck. You get in a car with them, and they take you to an apartment. You get an apartment in New York City, and it was all drugs back then, people shooting up. So he was really worried they're going to shoot up. So, but he was kind enough and engaging enough kind of guy, that he was one of these bar dudes, hanging out at Farmers Inn, that kind of thing, and up in Shavertown, that was his thing. He knew how to get along with, a myriad of people, even though a lot of them were like farmers and local blue collar dudes. There was a couple of accountants that showed up there. So anyway, he got along with these guys, and he became friends with them for about 3 days. And then finally...
So they, kept him hostage for 3 days?
They kept him hostage for 3 days. I think it was 2.5, actually. And they kept him overnight in the apartment, and they even took him out to bars with them. And they said, listen, if you get off the bar stool, we're just going to shoot you right there. And then you're going to stay with us. Because they were just holding him until they got rid of the truck. I guess they decided they were not going to... kill him, although they easily could have. But I think they just kind of liked him. That's the way I found out, right?
Yeah.
So they gave him $200. They told him hit the road. And then he did the right thing. He went to the detectives, and they got all these guys within, I think 2 days, And the weird part, the police was, they came to our house. They said, your father's been kidnapped, but he's okay.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, a wrestler back then and all that kind of thing. And I was 16, so I was kind of okay. But the bizarre part is they moved us to our grandmother's place that has the same last name. So I couldn't figure that one out.
Yeah.
So, but they moved us out for the address that was on his license. And, I used to shine his shoes every night. And on his shoes, when he was sitting in the apartment, he remembered their license plate. And he scribbled their license plate on the side of his shoe. Very convoluted, but enough polish was on it to get the license plate number and for him to remember it. And then, he when they let him go, he remembered reading the shoe on the side to the police, and that's how they caught them all. So I just thought it was sort of interesting.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy. So they wind up in the Tombs of New York City. The Tombs is a jail. So we went to court for about a year, and then they put these 5 guys, in the Tombs, and they made the front page of the New York Times, captured 5 guys, the Tombs. And then what's so bizarre, they broke out 3 weeks later with a classic file through a cake inside. A file is inside the cake, which I can't believe that's actually true. So they showed them coming out of the Tombs, and one guy, classic, they have sheets. They got out with sheets, 5 stories down, which I can't believe. One of the guy breaks his leg. Sounds like a common story that you read about, right?
Yeah. Common breakout
They catch
story.
one and they catch them all again, and they put him back in the Tombs. So that was the story. So I'm very proud of my father doing the right thing. He was like a no bullshit guy,
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. He was always polite, a gentleman, very disciplined to his boss. Howard Jacobs, I'll never forget. You don't call him Howard, you call him Howard Jacobs. You call him Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Jacobs.
So because, he always referred to him as Howard. It's Mr. Jacobs to you. So, so when I met him. But so that was my dad. That was one of his big stories, And then the other story, like I can tell you if you want, doing the right thing and the family love and continuity was that we were kids up at World's End State Park in 1969. I think I was like 12. And we're on the Loyal Sock Trail. And it's a place where you can go up. Your old man drops you off on one side. He'll go around with the car on the other. He drops me, my mother off with 7 kids, the 3 boys, and then a couple other friends and family. And we went to the top of the mountain. We saw the view, and then we went behind the view, went north up the mountain. We didn't go to the other side. We took the wrong trail. And so now it's 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. We realize we took the wrong trail. It's dark out. It's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Stay on the trail. Don't get off the trail. And we crossed 2 dirt roads. It would have been better, get off the road. But no, stay on the trail. Stay on the trail. So, because that's what he told us before we left. Stay on the trail. You won't have any problems. We stayed on the trail, but there's a trail split. So anyway, now it's 4 in the morning. My mother is taking care of us by wrapping ferns around us to keep us all warm. Now it's 4 in the morning, and here's this crazy little stream of light coming through with a Coleman lantern. It's a forest ranger with my father. So they carried Coleman lanterns, and the way they tracked us was with PF Flyers. You don't know what that is, but PF Flyers were the popular sneaker back then, kind of like Nike. and just do it. But now it's when you're being raised, it's just do the right thing, right? And fear no man. So anyway, he's coming through with a lantern, and I couldn't believe it. There was my father, coming through with a lantern with a forest ranger, and it was the first time I ever saw my parents hug each other, and kiss each other. It was kind of a crazy tearjerker moment, and I was like 12. But so he did the right thing. He found his family, at 4 o'clock in the morning. Kind of a cool thing, right?
Yeah, wow.
So, but there's a lot more than doing the right thing. But those are kind of the couple things that kind of remind me as that stick in my head.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned wrestling, and from the research I did, you were a big wrestler in high school, and you also did martial arts. You were in karate. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I was again a Catholic state champ. Which wasn't PIAA, but it was right before it changed in 1972. So it was a defining moment for me to get your skills in shape. It was probably the best shape I've ever been in. Just working out 5 hours a day, what's kind of crazy. You get up early in the morning, do your run, work out for 2 hours during the day, train your mind to be very disciplined. And, I had a crazy uncle that fought for the world title in boxing. We could talk about that later. Oh, Rocky.
Right here.
Yeah, Rocky.
Right here.
Rocky,
we got
right
him.
there. Rocky Castellani.
The real Rocky.
Survived the OG. He's the real Rocky. He goes on to become a military boxer, and then eventually fights for the world title, takes down Sugar Ray Robinson in one of his fights, and for 11 seconds that he wasn't never acknowledged as the winner of that fight, but he did take down Sugar Ray Robinson when I was about 5 days old. So with that kind of spirit in your background, your family, with the kind of discipline, doing the right thing, and you have an uncle who I admired greatly, for fighting for the world title. Even if he doesn't win, he went the distance, right? Go the distance is what it's about. Do the right thing, go the distance. And, that kind of inspired me to want to learn how to defend yourself and, become a wrestler. Because I was a terrible football player. I was a terrible basketball guy. I got cut from everything. And, rejection's your friend.
Right.
So failure's your friend. And,
it led you down a better path.
A better path, right? So you kind of hone. So rejection's your friend, right? So you're not measured by the number of times you fail, but by the number of times you succeed. And the number of times you succeed is directly proportional to the number of times you're willing to fail and keep on trying, right? So it's a rejection ratio that gives you success over life.
Yeah, wow.
So that's it. And then the black belt stuff. I was a New York State kickboxing champ back in 1980. I was working for IBM at the time. I was a marketing, sales, and distribution guy, but you don't want to become a pudgy office boy, so you got to still take a hit. And I understand that you're a black belt too.
That's right,
and that's really cool.
Little less, maybe less known fact about me.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't know how high I could kick these days, but back in the day, I used to be able to kick pretty high. You know,
that's pretty good. And it's good just to know how to take a hit.
Absolutely.
Because it's all over. It's all over in about 30 seconds anyway.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So all right. So what led you to work on Wall Street?
Yeah. So I started off. I was a psychology major. And I was always trying to understand people's, I call it fears, uncertainties, doubts, suspicions, fear, greed, ego. What are the motivators? That kind of thing. And then I said, what? I could really use this information to learn how to sell, because the psychology of sales, was a good tool, and I could probably make some money. So I got a job at IBM, and I became a salesman for IBM. And with that, I went to IBM sales training, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of failure along the way in the beginning, through their training. They actually wanted to fire me, which is so bizarrely ironic that I became one of their top salespeople, for a little under 10 years.
Why'd they want to fire you?
Well, because I couldn't program, and part of the deal was, okay, Manny, you're a great sales guy. You know how to present, you know how to qualify, you know how to handle objections, you know how to close people, use all those wonderful techniques, but you know nothing about the product. You don't really understand programming. And I'm like, okay, back then it was assembler, COBOL, RPG3 was another language, and I failed in all those tests. And so with that, at the time, they wanted you to success. So I remember I was in a computer lab one time after I had all my sales training, but I got the tap on my shoulder. And when they tapped me, out of 50 kids, when you're like 24 or 25 years old, they tap you and they said, come with us. And all of a sudden they make you disappear. And now you're no longer in there. It scares the hell out of all the other candidates. And all those other candidates find out one guy's missing. So there's a vacant seat. What happened to Manny? He's gone. And so they're walking me out of the building. I'll never forget it. The thing was over, and they said, you got to go home. You're going to get terminated. And I said, I said, I'm not getting terminated. You think I'm getting terminated. This is just the beginning of our conversation. No doesn't mean no. No means we haven't talked to each other long enough. It's like handling an objection in sales.
Yeah, this was like a real life sales call of them trying to
It was
get
a
rid
real
of
life sales call. A guy that you just trained how to sell. I'm handling your objection about getting rid of me, and I'm going to remove the objection,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get you to agree with me over time.
I love this.
So the guys, what they do is they take all my stuff out of my apartment I was staying in, and they said, here's all your stuff. We're going to give you a ticket, and you're going back home to talk to your boss, and he's going to terminate you probably this afternoon. I said, dude, I'm not going back home. I said, I'm staying in Atlanta where the training was, and I'm going to party for the weekend. I'll go home when I want to. That'll be Sunday, okay? Because you don't own me, but I'm definitely an employee, but you don't own me if you're terminating me right now. So I'll go back on Monday and talk to my boss. So I do that. I walk in, his name was Lenny Diuro. I'll never forget it. I was selling in Providence, Rhode Island. I was selling to the Navy at the time. That's where the Navy War College was. And so Lenny goes, Manny, you're terminated. I said, Lenny, look at me. What was your territory? He goes, the Empire State Building. I said, okay, dude, you're a New Yorker. So you know no doesn't mean no, so I'm going to try this on you. How about we just make a deal? I'll tell you what, why don't you fire me in 6 months, and I'll sign a document because I think I got pretty good sales skills, and I think you agree with that. The only thing that's standing in between me and you is this little programming thing called programming. I said, and I'm not here to program things. Yes. Do I need to understand it better? Yes. But give me a 6-month runway and see what we could work out and see if I could do it. So they agreed to do it.
You sold them.
And I said, yeah, I signed a document that said we can terminate you immediately within 6 months. So that was my way of saying, look, I think there's a higher probability I'm going to be a winner for you than a loser. And I turned out being like their number one guy in the region, not the country, in the region of New England, for those years. So it worked out really well. And then I said, I got tired of everything. I went around the world for a year, and I resigned. And I said, I got to do more with myself. And I decided that I would hit the road. I basically wanted to see the world because I was getting tired of New England. And so I basically hit 33 countries, 100 cities that year. And
So you just took a year off. Traveled the world.
Yeah.
What'd you learn?
It was great. Oh, dude, I learned that I could live off my own dough. All right.
Yeah,
So it was kind of cool. Right. And I was doing a little bit of trading. I was trading my IBM stock that I had at the time. And, I was following the markets a little bit closer because you needed to pay more attention to that. And, but I learned that I was completely self-empowered, living off my own wallet. And I said, when I come back, I said, the only way I think I learn how to do that and get leverage is to become a global broker, learn about Wall Street. And so I did learn about Wall Street when I came back. And basically I got hired by a little company called Payne Weber, and they had me take all my licenses. I passed all those, by the skin of my teeth. I was always by 1 point.
Yeah.
You need a 70. I always got like a 71, so it was always like maybe a 72.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I migrated out of Boston. I worked at Fidelity, State Street, and then I realized, if I really want to hit real big money, was to go to the core of capital market structure, and that was Wall Street. I mean, you had to be physically on Wall Street. Now, Wall Street's an expression. You could be anywhere in the world and be on Wall Street.
Sure, yeah.
Like the Reddit traders,
But we're talking,
meme traders.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but we're talking about actual Wall Street.
Yeah, Wall Street. So I was at the corner of Broadway and Wall, a little startup, kind of was my first career. And then I jumped onto Credit Suisse. And then from Credit Suisse I was there about 12 years, and I ran electronic trading from a marketing sales standpoint.
And then what?
Then we became number one, and you make a bunch of money, and then you get old. You start there when you're like 46. By the time you're 56, they want to give you the tap again. I always talk about the tap.
The tap on the
Right?
shoulder.
They tap on the shoulder. Time to go.
Yeah.
And then they don't
Manny.
really want you to go. They want you to hang around and don't go to a competitor, but they want the younger guys in their 30s, 40s, and early 50s to kind of like move into your slot. So it's basically the people that you hired really want your job over time, and that's fine. And so does your boss want you to kind of move on. You're 56. It's kind of like a target age where they give you the tap, but they pay you out. So they give you a significant life-changing payout.
Life-changing check.
Yeah, life-changing check that, they pay you to leave, which is a very professional way to like end a career. And then they say, oh, we want you to leave. We want you off the books, but we want you to become an advisor to the new stars, that we're going to make that just took your seat. And I'm like, I'm happy to do it. And they pay you to stay. And then when they pay you to stay, you advise everybody. And then when the advisory thing is over, somebody else taps you on the shoulder and says, we want to hire you. And then I remember it was 2012. Facebook blew up at NASDAQ Stock Exchange, and I had just been home, and I got a tap from NASDAQ. We're in trouble. Facebook went public, at $38 a share, but it dropped to $19, and we just lost our clients and we're getting sued. So we would need somebody to come in and reinvent our client relationship team that knows marketing, sales, and distribution. We want you to recruit, hire, train, and motivate a new sales force because we're in trouble. So I said, okay, I can do that for a couple of years. So they tapped me. I went to New York. I was head of sales for NASDAQ for a couple of years after the Facebook blow up on the NASDAQ exchange, and which is why people argue that New York Stock Exchange, where there's a lot of guys waving their hands, would have been a better deal for them. But the reality is it's the hybrid situation is really the best of all things. High tech and high touch always works better in tandem, together. So I became head of sales for NASDAQ and there for a couple of years. And then I just advised on Wall Street for about 3 more years and then came home to take care of my mom. My dad passed away and my mom had severe dementia. So I moved in with her and I took care of her for about 5 years, with managing 14 caretakers, just like managing a sales team.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So is Wall Street far off from what the movies portray?
It's pretty close. I would say the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas was very, very accurate because that was a high touch situation, and, when you had Bud Fox,
yeah,
talking about Blue Horseshoe.
Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the code thing, right?
Yeah.
So people talked in hyperbole, to kind of signal things that were probably, not ethically correct. So I've seen a lot of that around, to be honest. But there's a lot of honest people too.
You've seen the good and the bad on Wall Street.
I've seen the good and the bad, right? I've seen the stars, and I've seen the stars that burned out. Like a Bernie Madoff, like a Raj Ratnam that worked at Galleon, and then, so these people got in trouble.
You actually knew these guys? Like you knew Bernie Madoff?
Yeah. I balled them, shook their hand, and I sold them electronic trading and they loved it for their desk because it was small, smarter, faster, cheaper. It was just like Walmart for trading. So I had my good 12-year run, and then you burn out just like any other thing, or they want you out, but they pay you out, which is good. It's always a good thing to get a good run and get paid, So yeah, so all these guys, Rudy Giuliani, which is great. He spoke about leadership. I had Alan Greenspan, was there, and just a bunch of I would call it high quality, people. Gordon Brown, from he was the Prime Minister of England, so he was really cool. You know what I mean? So we had people from all over the world that would attract clients to come and listen to them speak, shake their hand, get a picture taken. You know what I mean? And then go party 3 weeks, 3 days in Miami. It felt like 3 weeks.
What's the biggest myth about Wall Street?
Oh man, that's a great question. The biggest myth is that it's easy. They make easy money, and I could tell you, it was an 18-hour, 15. I would say on average about 15 hours a day, 12, at least 12, and then 12 low. It was 7 in the morning, 7 at night till about 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Go to sleep, wake back up, do it again, and it was all the time. And you had to be a 24/7 mentality guy, especially if you ran a global business. So people say, "Oh, fat cats on Wall Street." Yeah, there are fat cats. Obama used to say, "Oh, those fat cats on Wall Street," right? And he's the biggest investor out there. He's one of the big investors. But the reality is that I think if you work hard, do the right thing, fear no man along the way, you can go far. But if you don't do the right thing, eventually it's going to catch up to you. So that's the truth of Wall Street right there. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay,
you did.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So how all right, so you said it's like a 24-hour thing, 24-hour round the clock job basically. Like how did you stay motivated during all that?
Yeah, I mean, money never sleeps.
what they say.
Money has no home. Because it keeps rotating around the world. It never stays. So what was your question again? I'm sorry.
All right, so how did you oh geez, I forget what the question was too.
That's okay.
So what
how'd you keep the stamina going?
What kept you motivated?
Oh yeah, well, I came from a modest, moderate, middle class family. Some people say, no, it was like low class. I hate saying low class, poor class, but my grandfather was a dirt farmer. Coal mining thing, and then they had kids that went to 8th grade, 9th grade. My father went to 10th grade. My mother went to 8th grade. They become seamstresses and truckers and dairy farmers, and they made a pretty good income. From where they came from. And then, and I was always very proud of them. And so what kept me going is the fact that I wanted to do better because my family gave me the opportunity to do better. They valued education, which they didn't have. They had it. They knew that that was a stepping stone, for having a bigger, better deal. I call it the BBD syndrome, the bigger, better deal in life, right? I talk with a lot of acronyms sometimes.
You do, yeah. I noticed that.
But the BBD, if I'm getting a bigger, better deal, your parents are giving you that opportunity. You can't disrespect that. I studied the best I could. I wasn't the smartest kid. I didn't have like stellar aptitude. My SAT scores sucked. 1,300 was like a good thing, right? Well, mine were like the first time I got my SAT scores, I think 1,200 is when they think that you're really good, right? Well, mine were 820 combined, which is like English and math. Yeah. 820, that's like a loser.
Yeah, I think I was in there. I was in that same bracket.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So
totally.
I said, God damn it, I'm going to take it the second time. So I took it the second time. I wound up with 760 combined. So when I took the aptitude test, I never did really well, with companies and things like this, and like the programming thing at IBM when I was getting terminated, So that aptitude, but I had different kind of aptitude. I had the emotional quotient, I had that emotional aptitude. I could understand people, read people, look them in the eye. I could prospect efficiently. I had a high value of empathy from my parents, right? And they were always disciplined. They always respected their employers, and they were almost to the point that they were subservient, which kind of bugged me. That's the thing that bugged me. They were always like fearful losing their job because where would you go? If you didn't go to Leslie Fay, where would you go? Right? If you're going to be a trucker somewhere, you could go be a trucker a lot of places. Now truckers are in high demand.
Right.
My old man would have loved it now. Right. So, but back then it was different, And my mother worked in a dress factory. She would go from one factory to the next, but also with a lot of respect because she got paid by them. And I think it was that subservient thing. But Rocky was the guy who was out of the box. He was fear no man, right? Do the right thing, but fear no man. He went on to fight for the world title, survived the Iwo Jima, 5,000 guys getting killed. So a combination of finding parents that would teach you to always do the right thing, and then with an uncle and my father, like fear no man along the way, right? But also be respectful, like encourage me to go out and be more, do more, looking for that bigger, better deal. And that's how it all started, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it's so interesting, because it's just that thought of, like you said, you weren't really a good test taker and you didn't really do well in school.
Yeah.
But look at the success you achieved.
Yeah, we kicked ass on Wall Street. We became number one electronically. Now, I wasn't like a trader that sat at the desk trading, even though I know how to do it. And I was primarily a marketing, sales, and distribution guy that created the concept of trading and what the benefits were. And the benefits were, can I offer them a system, empathetically offer them a system by asking them high gain, open-ended questions of saying, so I truly understood the client's needs from a psychological standpoint. And I explained to them how things could be more productive, reliable, versatile. I offered them quality results, and the solution I offered was easy to use. Hit the button, trade the world. And that's how I made my money. I was Walmart for trading.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah. High stakes game, and Jimmy T. Martin one time said to me, winning builds confidence, but losing builds character.
Whoa. Awesome. I got to remember that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So kind of along those lines, what were some of your biggest takeaways you would say, winning and losing on Wall Street?
Exactly. So, rejection's your friend. You know what I mean? Because you're not measured by the number of times you fail, but by the number of times you succeed. And the number of times you succeed is directly proportional to the number of times you're willing to try and keep on failing. So, you never, what's that old saying? You never get, I forget how it goes. The number of times, I'm not really doing a good job of executing this line, but if you don't, you never hit 100% of the shots you never take.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you got to take the shot. So, but you got to engage rejection, and that's part of it. The fear of failure is definitely your friend, and you got to conquer that fear. So don't be afraid to fail, because eventually you'll win if you're willing to hang in there.
Yeah.
It's all about hanging in.
Absolutely.
It's all about going the distance.
Right. What would you say is the greatest lesson Wall Street taught you about life?
Oh, wow. Don't get greedy. Give it away. And I like to think I gave things away a long time, I think time is your biggest asset. Even though you spend so much time making money, now you want your money to give you time. So that's the way it kind of works for me, right? So I think you just can't get greedy. Don't let your ego get over your skill set. And, never fall in love with the guy who you think you could be someday. Just be true to yourself and be true to other people. And I think that high, genuine concept of empathy, looking people in the eyes, they can read you. They feel they feel the love you give them, or they could also feel like if you're a little bit shaky or sketchy, they could feel that too. So you might as well just be yourself and be a genuine person.
Yeah, absolutely. What does success mean to you?
Wow, success.
These are deep questions.
Yeah,
huh?
these are good questions. Gee, I wish I was prepared for them. But success for me, it's, that's a multi-dimensional question, because I think success for people is all about giving people your time. I think that's the greatest asset, because it's the only asset that constantly is depleted day in, day out. Like you have a kid, right? So giving that kid that time is a treasure trove. Me coming back, taking care of my mom when she was at Point of Need, to me is being very successful. So I think time is the greatest asset in life. Again, money never sleeps, but money has no home. It's great to have money, but it's a tool. You got to use it to benefit, either you giving you more time or doing the right thing for people along the way. And I really believe in the power of the universe. I think the power of the universe feeds you. If you're willing to do the right thing, give people your time, and even if it's a negative event, somehow I think it cycles back. I don't know how it call that godliness, but that's what I think godliness is. I'm not a religious guy by any means. I spent my time
Catholic.
Catholic. I call it Cathlick. Catholic.
Yeah.
And I think that I think the power of the universe feeds you, and I think that's godliness. And I think it exists in everybody and everything. And money is only a tool. And so success is doing the right thing all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's it.
And fear no man.
And fear no man.
I love
like
it.
that. I love that.
Yeah. All right. So you're retired now.
Yeah.
Right? Like what?
Loving it.
Yeah. So when did you retire?
I retired January 2017. I was advising for a short interest group, a little intel group. We kind of had some intel people that formerly worked with the CIA, so I traveled with them a little bit to kind of make sure that data was accurate, and just advising clients their data integrity, because everything else is all big data. People steal data, they manipulate data, break into your computer, all that stuff, right? So I was sort of advising people on Wall Street about short interest, which means betting against the market, and if the data is accurate, when to do that. I worked with some ex-CIA guys that were at the CIA for over 30 years, called the Arkin Group. I traveled with them for a couple clients, which was probably one of the highlights of my career, kind of hanging out with those dudes.
So wait, they were ex-CIA?
Yeah, ex-CIA.
Working on Wall Street.
They were working as a service, assisting us help identify if there was data integrity.
Gotcha.
Because that's how they monitor things, and then they go in and take care of business.
Yeah.
When they have enough data.
Yeah. Wow.
Like they find, like Palantir. The Palantir system conquered finding out where Osama bin Laden was. So I love the Palantir people. I work with some of those kind of folks. And a woman by the name of Whitney Castle was at the Arkin Group. And the Arkin Group, you can look them up. Jack Devine was he was the big CIA director down there, and I traveled with him just like 3 or 4 times. It was just kind of cool, but it was a highlight of my career, like working with those guys.
How the hell did you meet these people?
Through my boss that was affiliated with them to examine data integrity. You know what I mean? And so that was it. So it was like a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I had a shot at the CIA when I was an IBM guy back when I was 25, but they weren't paying anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I said, thanks for the offer, guys, but politely no. You want to be polite, those guys.
Yeah.
So then I retired. I came home.
So you moved back home.
Yeah.
What, in 2017?
Yeah. I moved back home in 2017, take care of my mom, and my dad had passed away. And then my mom had sort of dementia. I had some caretakers taking care of her, but she needed more attention. And I wanted to be hands-on taking care of her. So I decided I was going to cash out, got my last checks, off of Wall Street. And now you're, airborne, so it's been fantastic ever since. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But taking care of 14 caretakers was a big challenge. But yeah, always do the right thing. Things work out.
Yeah. So all right. So what are you up to now in retirement?
Oh, dude. So I decided,
besides trading meme stocks.
I do.
Which we'll talk about. We got to talk about that too in a minute. But go.
I love it. I feel like I'm a millennial when I trade the meme stocks and I'm on the Reddit platform, banging them out, trying to catch some momentum, trade.
All right, let's actually talk about that now, and then we'll talk about the retirement thing in a minute.
Sure.
All right. So you legitimately you were a meme stock guy.
Yeah, I was a meme stock guy. Yeah, I made my money on GameStop and AMC. I took some hits, on other ones that didn't work out so well. You know what I mean? So I have like a 58% win rate to a 42% loss rate. So the delta difference is around 16%. So that's a pretty consistent number for me. I'm 58% right most of the time and 42% wrong. But it's the concentration on the money that you're wrong that hurts. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
one time's wrong could really offset a lot of light wins, 58%.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure your notional value, I call it, on those trades is weighted appropriately. So it's not just the win, but the notional value behind those wins or losses.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you got a good delta going between both. But that's how I kind of do it for fun these days. So I have my short, high-speed trading money, I call it. But then I have my safe money, which is most of my money, just basically working for me, through dividends and interest and hopefully appreciation. And sometimes you take a hit, like right now, taking a hit, like about, 12%, negative this year. But the other years you're up 15, 20, 21%. So you're going to have a down year. Nothing, like I said, life is hyperbolic. It's not linear. It doesn't always go up,
Yeah.
like to think,
Yeah.
hyperbolic is sort of like an erratic term. You think of it going in multiple directions because you never know where that one little moment in time is going to change your life or change your portfolio or give you that meme stock advantage.
Sorry. So what? So you got like 25 monitors set up at home or what?
I got 6.
6?
I got 6, but there's a lot of sub screens behind it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, I got 6.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You got the TV going. Your Bloomberg.
So you got
TV
you got the
going.
command station
CNBC,
all set up.
We got the command station, and
Yeah.
sometimes when it blacks out and it goes dead, it's like it's a heartbreaker. You know what I mean? So you got to have a backup system, which is actually your handheld.
Yeah.
That means sell everything, get out until your systems are running again. So so you got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, I think it's real interesting that you actually were trading the meme stocks. Because it's just over the last couple
Yeah.
of years, but there's been a lot of discussion publicly and on social
Oh,
media
dude,
and the news.
I love the guy. I love all those little punks on
Oh my
Congress
God.
that interview deep fucking value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just love him, And he was from Brockton, Mass, I think, And he was not even in the markets. He was sort of like I forget his real name though. DFV they call him, right?
Yeah.
D fucking V. Where's the bandana? He's a cool dude because he was sort of like an educator for Wall Street, and he only traded for himself, But they were looking for something, And he was completely intrepid, and I watched all the hearings, and I just love the guy. He's like a major ape, as they call him. All the apes that come in, right? That's the name that they're using, And I love, to the moon, YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah.
Hold diamond hands.
Yeah.
I just love the whole culture. It's really cool. I felt like a millennial. I felt like I was
Yeah.
25 to 35 again.
Were you in crypto too?
I still am in crypto. I am. Taking a hit, but I was experimenting with it. Nothing dramatic because I wanted to watch the behavior and the patterns and how things actually work. So I was in about 4 crypto names,
Okay.
And but I haven't been. I've been letting it just reside there, watching the news on it.
Yeah.
It's not a big, significant part of my portfolio, but I love Nova Grants. He's a big guy. He's a big Wall Street dude. I knew his brother over at Millennium, and Nova Grants is a cool dude. He was a former wrestler too, and he's a big crypto guy, big believer in crypto. I don't know if you know that guy, but look him up, Nova Grants, NOVOGRANTZ. He's a hitter. You know what I mean? All these guys. So,
Yeah.
Where were we?
All right. So meme stocks, and to clarify,
Yeah.
For the people out there that may not know a lot about, like, I'll say, like, investing,
Yes.
right, the stock market.
Yeah.
I think the meme stocks probably should be left to the pros, like you.
Yeah, I think people can do it. You know what I mean? I think it just should take some lessons online, day trading.
Yeah,
or
because
you
this is we're talking day trading.
Yes.
We're not talking, put your money in Apple and
Correct.
let it ride kind of thing.
Yeah, that's called swing trading when you hold it overnight. And day trading, or active trading, they call it. Active trading is a generic name for both. I'll call it day trading. Day trading means for the day you're in the morning and you're out flat by the afternoon. Your portfolio's flat. You're out of your positions. Swing trading is basically some of your positions you might want to hold overnight because you're willing to take the risk, the midnight risk, I call it, the overnight risk, right? That's called a swing trade. And then active traders is sort of a more umbrella term for both day trading and swing trading. You're an active trader. You don't hold it for a long time. And long-term investing is asset allocation, where you have, maybe index funds, well-diversified funds or growth funds or maybe value funds, but you're well-diversified, or maybe you have some bonds too, short-term, mid-term, long-term bonds that have getting crushed this year, but they kind of counterbalance each other over the course of time and they sort of self-correct. And that kind of money drives I call it total return, and the total return is really dividends, interest, and appreciation or depreciation, like this year. But you got to be a long-term player, and that you just keep steady and you live off that stuff. And then the day trading, you can go, do whatever you want with your money, whatever your discretionary money is that you make or lose. You know what I mean? Loss, you're not going to do anything. But, but your wins, if you can get a methodic system of day trading, I really believe non-professional people can do it, but you have to maintain some sort of consistent discipline and either take some lessons online or go to a day trading shop. There's lots of them around. You know what I mean? You could get online with them and just learn some of the basic techniques, and don't get crazy. Just use $100 or $1,000.
Yeah, something you're only willing to lose.
Yes, that is
right?
correct. When you're learning, that's correct. Or they even have platforms that you could actually trade on, like fake money. I call it wampum. The wampum trade. It's not real. Wampum was real back then. We bought Manhattan for $24. I get it. But wampum, we traded, and a lot of people don't even know. I'm getting off subject here, but you can day trade. You can go to Wall Street. There's a lot of traders on Wall Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know where the word Wall Street comes from?
I don't think I do.
Yeah, so it was the people in the Netherlands, the Dutch came, and they were the first ones that called New York City New Amsterdam back in the 1700s, and so they kind of had the first concept of starting an exchange. And what they did was they used to meet all these people under the beechwood tree, just kind of like guys at lunch saying, I'll invest in your company, you invest in my company. And that was the way they kind of did it. And so what they did was when they had an exchange, they didn't want the Indians to come in and raid them. So they put up a wall across the tip of Manhattan, all boards, planks all the way up.
So it used to be a wall there.
Used to be a wall. That's why I call it Wall Street. And
wow.
It divided the entire lower tip of Manhattan, from Broadway up, Broadway was an old Indian trail. So I was at the corner of Broad and Wall, and but I just loved the history of Wall Street under the buttonwood tree and having the Dutch that actually started it. And that's how Wall Street got its name.
Wow.
It was a wall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Right? That it actually was a wall.
The obvious might be accurate.
Yeah. Hiding in plain sight, you know?
Right. But I'm not a fan of Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street guy. I mean, I love the show.
Yeah, let's clear it up here. Clear the air.
Yeah. So Jordan Belfort's a little bit of a scumbag, okay? So he ripped off old ladies in Long Island. And, and I don't know why people today, after he was proven to rip people off for $220 million, that people admire him. I love the show.
Yeah.
I love DiCaprio in it. Right? It's a great movie. I love the energy. But he was a scumbag in reality. And I'd say it right to his face. And I think all he did was give back is like around 20 mil out of the 220 that he lost. And I forget how long he was in jail. I think only 2.5 years, not very long. And then he's running around doing sales training. Like, who wants to learn from a scumbag? You know what I mean? I mean, there's always something to learn from somebody, but I just don't have the heart. Like, I would love to meet the guy, shake his hand, so dude, but couldn't you have done the right thing and fear no man that way instead of ripping off old ladies? The way he did it. You want to know how he did it?
Yeah.
I don't know, because a lot of people don't really understand how he did it.
Like, was the movie accurate?
It was kind of accurate, but the way they never really told the inside story, I don't think. But they showed that he got caught and everything else. But it was relatively accurate. So he would let's say get 5 guys that were outside of his firm, and he would give them money to go buy a stock. And then in the meantime, he would have his inside guys that were part of the firm making calls to old ladies. This stock is going to Pluto, and Pluto's not even in the solar system anymore. It's going to the moon, right? That kind of thing. So they would get these people in. Then he would tell his guys he gave, let's say, $100,000 to each. I'm making the number up, right? But now you have 5 guys that nobody in the firm knows about. He's telling them buy, right? Like Jim Cramer, buy.
Yeah,
so they're all buying. The stock is going up. And the old ladies are watching the ticker of the stock going up that his inside guys are telling him to buy. See, I told you it was going to be great. It's going to go. So then what he did was he gets all the general public to buy the stock and ride the stock.
So he pumps it up.
Pumps it up. It's a pump and dump, right?
Yep.
So he pumps it up, and then he tells the guys that he has money with the outside, dump it, right? And then he makes the money. Then he would split profits with them, those unidentified 5 of the guys, let's say.
Rat holes, they called them
rat holes.
in the movie.
Oh, you got it, the rat holes.
The
so the movie was relatively accurate, but this went on and on and on. And then finally, that's how they caught him. All right. And then they let him off the kind of hook if he would give up the other guys that were the rats. In the rat hole.
in the rat
so
hole.
I just think he's a scumbag,
Yeah.
And, he probably deserves a punch in the face.
Probably. Maybe 2.
Yeah, a couple,
Yeah.
All
right, let's
we'll go on to something positive.
Yeah, let's get back to retirement.
But that is Wall Street. Just do the right thing and fear no man.
That's right. All right, so what's up in retirement?
So I've been building these. I like space. I came back to Pennsylvania for 2 reasons. One, to be by my family where I grew up in a little, blue collar environment here, and also I love the space that it offers because I think you have more space here. You know, I've been living in Hong Kong, London, Singapore, Manhattan, Boston. A lot of people, a lot of opportunity. You could make a great life in these places because opportunity just shows up. It's crazy, right? But I wanted to come back home after making the money because I can go to Manhattan whenever I want. You know what I mean? So now you got this, you know, like you got a great, you know, economic platform underneath you. So I decided I would like concentrate on having my family enjoy more space. And so I'm building a dock up at Harvey's Lake, and I've got a mountain retreat property on the top of Forks the Mountain. And below that, I belong to a hunting club for like the last, I hate to say it, 50 years since I was a kid. My old man there, we have like 105 acres. And then I have a bunch of other land on top of Forks the Mountain with great spectacular views with a lot of ATV riding. And if you're a hunter, you can hunt. Obviously, I gave that up, but I actually did like it for many years. And but the ATV thing and just walking in the woods is fantastic and spectacular Pennsylvania views. You're 2,300 feet up. That's pretty good for Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? So, and then just having the space to ride around your Jeep and stuff like that, you know? And there's no people. It's very isolated. People get scared up there if you're not used to being out there where there's nobody else. You know, so you got to carry a gun, all that stuff, and, you know, make sure you're well prepared in case something does happen. We have a helipad up on top there too, in case something really crazy happened.
Get out of there.
And we got it happened a couple of times for people over the last 30 years. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's cool. You know, it's a cool spot. It's a good hideout. And then I have like a little project I'm doing at Newberry Estates. You know, redoing a condo there in case I get old and want to move into a an easier place to live. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So is your dog up at the lake finished?
It just got finished. Yeah, it's a saga story.
It is,
it's a crazy story.
I did a little research, because of course I had, whenever a guest comes in, by the way, so everyone knows. I mean, I Google the shit out of you.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, well, I gotta make sure.
I hope it's good.
Yeah, I gotta make sure you're the real deal. I did a broker check on you the whole bit. All that. Clean record.
Yeah, right. Clean record. Yeah, have a clean record. You checked my record, right?
I did. Yeah, of course
cool.
I did.
Absolutely. I like a clean record.
Yeah. But so of course I came across some Times Leader articles about some controversy at the dock.
Oh yeah.
The heck's going on?
Oh yeah. So in life there's always cooperation, competition, conflict, and now I'm facing corruption. So I call it the 4 C's of sociology: cooperation, competition, conflict, and corruption. So now I'm in the midst of this corruption by a zoning officer who has been proven to be completely corrupt, along with her, boyfriend. And the zoning officer's name is Maureen Ormus. Am I allowed to say names? I just said it.
You did. It's too
Maureen
late.
Ormus and Jerry Brown. So I'm taking them down. So she's been up there for quite some time, and her ego is definitely over her skill set. So the way I read her when I was involved, I hired her boyfriend. So she introduced me to her boyfriend as soon as I walked in the zoning office, unbeknownst to me. She goes, my boyfriend could do this for you. He goes, he's a builder. He's been up for 40 years. Oh, by the way, here he is. So I think somehow she communicated with him, and he walks in from behind the sewer office. I'm like, what's this contractor doing there? Comes in the back door. I'm in there sitting at her desk. I introduce her to Jerry Brown. So I agreed to it. I said, how bad can it be? I got a zoning office. I fell into the Venus flytrap, right?
Yeah,
the sticky paper.
Yeah, a true backdoor deal.
Right. So that was one of my big failures. So, it was a failure on my part, not doing enough due diligence. You think you would, right? You did more due diligence on me than I did on them, right?
Yeah, I did.
And I'm thinking like, okay, she's been here 8 years. He's been here 40. And all I want is a dock and then, a wall up there and that I could, a retaining wall that I could maybe park some cars and stuff and build a house, that kind of thing. And then, and so I agreed to it, and I haven't signed a contract, an official legal contract where I locked him up personally and on his little LLC, which I found out later is not a real LLC. So anyway, Maureen Ormus introduces me. The project's going along. Well, the builder places it in the wrong place. That's the first thing you're supposed to do. Do what your girlfriend, I have these zoning plans, architectural plans you spend a lot of money on. The zoning office approves them. The zoning board approves them. And now the builder just freely, willy-dilly, goes and puts the building in the wrong location. Well, I think that's an early indicator. Things are not going to go well.
Yeah, something's off here.
I said, Jerry, the way things start are typically the way things end. I told that to his face, right? And so that's when he started not showing up. And then I had a little contest with him saying, Jerry, do you realize how long it took to build the Empire State Building in Manhattan? 14 months. Dude, you don't show up. It's been a couple of years now. So anyway, he builds the building in the wrong spot. And I proved that he must take the wall down because I found out through my own testing of the concrete and the rebar that it was a complete disaster. Now, the building inspector, Harvey's Lake, actually did approve it, and I think there might be they just approved it not knowing they're not always there all the time. There's a level of trust you have to have with builders. But I proved to them that it was placed in the wrong spot. I proved it to Maureen Orm as a zoning officer. Your boyfriend put it in the wrong spot. And then all of a sudden, I commanded that the wall come down. I hired my own structural engineers. They proved it to the building code officer that it must come down. He agreed. He told Jerry Brown, it must come down. Jerry Brown winds up threatening me. He goes, you want to disappear? I'll make it disappear. I'm afraid what I can do to you. And I said, dude, you came to the right guy. All the Pennsylvania State Wrestling stuff is coming out, and so is the karate black belt. Yeah. I'm like, follow your dreams, dude. I want you right here. So I report him to the police. And then, basically, long story short, I just proved it to the district attorney over at wilkes-barre, and they put out a warrant for his arrest. And the chief of police, Harvey's Lake, Chief Charles Musial, along with Officer Glenn Johnson, arrested Jerry Brown at pole 82. I love it. And they did the right thing, right? And they fear no man, which I just love that mantra.
This is like the theme of this whole show.
It is, right? They do the right thing and fear no man. So Jerry Brown got arrested. I don't fear her. To shut me down, she put a cease and desist on my property because I hired new contractors, Mark Callahan, to, we got rid of the wall. The wall's missing. I put up a new dock, and she stopped my new building from being put up. She comes out and she tries to put a cease and desist against me, which she did. And then I had to appeal all her issues. And then she's out there acting like I owe Jerry Brown money, which was false. And that, and for her to get involved between me and Jerry Brown is highly illegal. It's a dereliction of her duty and conflict in her interest. And that's really the mantra: derelict in her duty and conflict of interest. Derelict in her duty and conflict in her interest, right? Derelict in her duty of you're not supposed to get involved in my stuff with my contractor. So that's derelict in her duty. That's not what a zoning officer does, right? And then conflict in her interest, she's trying to get this guy paid because I call it, ready? Cash for permits. Right? She gets economically advantaged by the word pecuniary interest is the legal term that they use, pecuniary interest, because she lives with him. They domicile together at the same address. So if Jerry Brown gets permits, she gets the economic benefit. So I call it cash for permits. That's my expression, right? So I'm finding out I'm not the only one. There are many, many
There's
people.
more.
I've been running my own meetings to bring out the people that were afraid to speak up at Harvey's Lake because they were afraid that there would have been retaliation against them or their business or their family, and they're afraid to arrest the guy and afraid to go after her. So now I've got the ethics committee down in Harrisburg looking at her. For government employees, there's a commission down there. It's the Government Commission for Government, I believe. Ethics Commission, that is investigating her right now. So I love that. And also other council members potentially that are keeping her in her seat when it's been so egregious and so obvious and proven time and time again. They continue to let her in her seat, and I'm like, I'm going after him. Do the right thing, fear no man. And that's been my mantra. The DA believes me. He's going after him. Jerry Brown's case, right now is scheduled for September sometime. They keep changing the date with a continuum, I think they call it, or it's been continued. So, but there is a hardcore date on this. So that's number one. And now Maureen, she's being investigated by the Ethics Commission. So they're going to get to her eventually. They're a little understaffed, but I talked to the attorneys down there. They're after her. And so I think I'm doing the right thing. And this group of 30 people right now represents around 20 or 22 properties. And these people are getting really harmed. So I think there's broader corruption. And there are some other agencies, I won't mention their name, that are looking at this, looking for the broader corruption gaps. And eventually that might come about. And so we'll be coming after them. And then there's really good contractors that felt alienated because of this bad behavior and preferencing that goes on by Maureen Oramus as a zoning officer. She does not consistently administer zoning law, code, or ordinance consistently. She preferences definitely Jerry Brown and definitely a few other contractors that are up there that have no problem. They went on record, like Summit Partners went on record. I have no problem with Maureen. And, they even articulated, I don't bribe her. And like, why would you even bring that up? Which I think is so dumb. Yeah. And then there's been other contractors, that that been up there defending her, like this guy Duddy, who in my opinion has been a dud, because they have all these clients that have been harmed by her, and the clients are the one that write the checks. A zoning officer doesn't write the check. You know what I mean? You have to get along with her, but she's supposed to follow the law, do the right thing, right? But she doesn't do the right thing. She definitely favors people. It's been proven time and time again by multiple people. And I just kicked her ass, her and Jerry Brown, at my July 5th zoning meeting, where they awarded me all my permits. And she went in and screamed and told all the zoning people that are of the zoning board, fuck you, and fuck you to everybody. And then physically, nudged up against McNeilis, the attorney, nudged up physically against him. Now, I can't say it was a physical strike or anything, but it made him feel physically very uncomfortable, although he didn't fear for his life. He actually told me that. But he basically, there was some activity level there that was highly inappropriate, highly uncalled for. And then she'll get up in a council meeting and say, well, those are my friends. We're like family. We get together. And if I want to yell at them, I'm sorry, but I did. And that's it. But she's using profanity with them, physically grazing them. To what degree, I don't really know. And I just think it's highly inappropriate. And she's harmed more people. She's been called out in her personnel file for Porsche for permits. She was driving clients' Porsches around the lake while she was involved in zoning activity with them. And that was a proctologist up at the lake. She has a file in her file from years ago about doing that. She also has a file for promoting fencing for a vendor off the front, I'll call it desk of the zoning office, which is hysterical. So she's favoring a vendor off of one over there. Why would she be doing that? Why would you be selling fencing? That's not your job. You're derelict in your duty once again, right? Also, she's been giving her boyfriend jobs to fix the ceiling in the municipality. And she doesn't go out to bid. She gave a house to her husband to demolish that was borough property, but did not go out to bid. Why is that? There was no equal bidding process. And then also there might even be potential, I don't know if this is true, I asked her to talk about it, potential insurance fraud. She was using her own car to go around the lake instead of a municipal vehicle that they gave her to use. They sold a police car to give her a municipal vehicle to go around the lake. She didn't like it, so she wanted to use her own car. She used her own car. Then she got in an accident. She got in the accident, and then she puts an insurance claim in, and she asked the borough to give her the, what do you call it? What do you call that thing? The money for the, I forget, what do they call that when you make a deposit? It's like you have to pay the first $1,000 or something.
Oh yeah,
I forget the word.
Yeah, I forget the word too, but yeah,
it's like you have to pay the first.
The first $500 or whatever.
First $500.
And we all know, everybody knows,
whatever that's called.
Whatever that is.
I forget what that's called. But you have to pay the first $500. So she asked the council to pay it, whatever the amount was, and that's like derelict in their duty to even approve it. And then we find out when she submitted the insurance claim, her car was not even covered under a work environment. So to me, that's like insurance fraud. Whether it is or not, I don't know for sure, but that incident did happen. So I would love the council to conduct an investigation. And furthermore, I think the council should conduct an audit, an independent third-party audit of all permits. Who were they issued to? Over what period of time? For how long? Who were the favored contractors during that period of time over the last 8 years? Right? Who got their permits? Who didn't? And why didn't they? And how many were Jerry Brown involved in? Her dereliction of duty and conflict of interest boyfriend. So I would like data, because there are some people like that crazy radio show host Kevin Lynn. He goes up there because his wife, who I've known for years, is the sister of the zoning officer's secretary. So Kevin Lynn's up there protecting her, saying, oh, there must have been 2,000 type things and maybe 20 people. So what's that, 1%? So I would say she's doing a pretty good job. Wouldn't you think so? I'm like, dude, give me the real data. Give me the real numbers. Don't make up shit. And you're not allowed to speak anyway because you're nepotistically involved. Your wife has the sister of the zoning board, or excuse me, of the zoning office and of the town. So you can't be making comments when you're nepotistically involved. Nobody believes you. You know what I mean? And I just think it's hysterical that people were recruited, by the way, to go to her defense. It's not like they just willingly went up there. She physically asked them, oh, Manny told me about my 12 counts of dereliction of duty and conflict of interest with Jerry. Would you please come to the next council meeting and speak on my behalf? I'm calling in favors. That's what she did. How do I know that? They told me. She called them. Come to my rescue. And that's when the Citizen Voice wrote, oh, there are some citizens that came to her. They weren't citizens. They were builders that she was calling in because they are fearful of their livelihood, that she'll make it ugly because the council members will not terminate her because they're weak, they're just weak. That's all they work. They're weak. They're ignorant. They're not doing the right thing for the residents of Harvey's Lake. And I just think everything will come out eventually.
Yeah. So what do you hope to be gained from all this?
Well, number one, I got my doc.
All right. So we got to finish doc.
It's a super doc. Come up, poll 147. Check it out. Do a drive-by.
Party at Manny's.
Yeah, party at Manny's. Just come
Love
in.
it.
And if you want to park, if there's like more than 30 or 40 cars there, park over at the Sportsman's Club. Tommy Boyle that runs it, and Patty Boyle that run the Sportsman Club have given permission. If my 3 parking spots that I have there, you can park on the side of the road. But if it gets crazy, if you see me on the dock, even stop by, even better, right? So I'm just saying that the Sportsman's Club up at Harvey's Lake off of Knoxham Road, they allow you to have parking and then come in and have a beer over there as a courtesy for parking.
Nice.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
come to
yeah.
the Super Dock, poll 147.
There it
come
is.
check it out. We only have boats there now, but it's 2,200 square feet. Come check it out.
It's a big doc.
A big dock.
Big doc.
Careful how you say that.
Yeah. All right. So back to the investing.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and Wall Street.
Yeah.
What would you say is your best investment tip or advice?
Oh my gosh!
Like, let's say like on a basic level.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. Okay, if you want to save money and you want it at an efficient price point, I think now's a great time to get in. I'll give you the acronym for it. It's with Vanguard. It's VTSAX is a symbol. It's VTSAX is a symbol. And what that is, it's a broad base. It owns the entire market. Like, I think it's over 4,000 stocks. I think it's 4,059 stocks. It entires the entire universe. So what you're betting on is that the comeback of capital markets, right? So broadly, you don't know where it's going to come from. You don't know what's going to lead the pack. Is it transportation? Is it going to be gold stocks? Is it going to be value stocks? Is it going to be growth stocks? Is it going to be dividend paying stocks? You don't know, because if you did, we'd all have the crystal ball. We'd all be rich.
We'd all be rich. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's such a broad based situation where it hedges your bet. It makes on average, around 12, 14% over the course of time. Now, a lot of people say, I don't want that. I want to double my money. Well, I like getting wealthy slowly, and that's what I did. It's a broad-based index fund, and the fees on it are so small. And you become a partner at Vanguard, by the way. So they would be a great sponsor for you.
There we go.
Yeah. Get Vanguard. I'm telling you, Vanguard, you become an owner when you put your money in Vanguard. And what's the benefit of being an owner? You get reduced fees, and that's why. So there's more money in it for you. If you go to other firms, they have higher fee structures. But I know Vanguard is like as cheap as it gets.
Buy.
Buy.
There we go.
I'm a big fan of VTSAX. Now, if you want momentum stocks and you want to be like a little day trader, I'm still a big believer in the Reddit platform where there's REDDITT. I'm one of those crazy old apes with a young ape mentality. Like, I hit the button trade for the day. I'm in, I'm out, make a couple bucks for the day. And go spend it at a sportsman's club, up in Knoxville Road,
Yeah.
or wherever you want to spend
Yeah.
it, go to New York or whatever, But I'm a big believer that diligent asset allocation across multiple asset classes, it's called diversification, is what wins the game over the course of time. I've taken big hits over time. That's when I was day trading, and you will take hits over the course of time. But if you stay the course, it comes back. Like, I start getting in the market back in the 70s, and let's say really the 80s, I had a couple bucks. And then the comeback, when the market collapsed in 87, that's when Michael Douglas came in. Money never sleeps, the big class.
Yeah.
The 80s, right? Money never sleeps. Blue Horseshoe loves Endicott Steel. That collapse took a year and a half to come back. That's not a big deal. If you stayed in the market, a year and a half later, you made back your money. And then in the 90s, the Gulf War in 91, it went to about 2 years when it collapsed back then. So it got a little bit longer, a little longer. And then when it was late 99, like party like it's 1999, right? The dot-com bubble, right? That kind of thing. Well, that thing, took 6 years to make a comeback. I don't know if you know that, but it was 6 years. But if you stayed in the market, you made your money back. And in the meantime, you're collecting dividends and interest. So you got income coming in that's feeding it, So anyway, so 99.
Bottom line is long-term.
What's that, buddy?
Long-term investing.
Long-term investing wins the game, but you got to put it in and dollar cost average in. So you don't know when it's going to be the highest or the lowest, but keep buy all the way through your lifetime. And then for your one-off, like I'll call it, the mad money, for lack of a better word, with Jim Cramer. But that money is sort of like It's true. It's mad. You get mad. You get all possessed by something. You think it's going to Pluto, right? And and then you want a dollar cost average down too. That's cool. But you got to watch the momentum on these things, right? And then when you make a couple bucks, get out. Don't hold on forever. Like GameStop, right? I was watching people go up. It rode up to $400. I think mid-30s to 400. I wasn't in it then. I wait for the dead cat bounce. So when it came back down, and then it was at a reasonable buy level, I'll call it, I bought in, and then it just happened to kick up over 2 days, and then I got out. I'm not a big holder when it comes to that. Like, to the moon, YOLO, hold forever.
Yeah.
No, never.
Yeah.
Maybe in the safe money, yes.
Yeah.
But on the one-off money, no. So does that answer? I hope that answers
does.
it.
Yeah. So all right. So this the timing of this episode may be a few weeks delayed from recording till the time this comes out.
Yeah.
So give me. Do you have like a favorite stock now or something up and coming?
Oh,
Something you're watching?
Yeah. So.
Like not. I want to go. Not like a day trading stock.
Oh, okay. A day trading stock.
No, not a day trading stock.
Not a day trading stock.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So to answer that question, I'm still a big believer in the FANG stocks. It's not Facebook anymore, right? It's Meta, which I hate that name.
Yeah.
I think he made a big branding mistake, in my opinion. God bless, but I'm sure it'll be okay. But Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, Alphabet, those things. I'm a big believer in technology growth stocks, right? But you got to have an underlying asset allocation of other ones, like the blue chip, like I'll call it like IBM. I want to say Sears and Roebuck. That would be dating myself. Okay, I don't think they exist anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm saying like the blue chip ones like AMD. Is a good stock. I think AMD. Here's what I think. I would buy some chip stocks right now, like AMD. There's some others out there, and because they're all chip dependent, everything's focused on Taiwan. If we break loose with Taiwan, meaning if things get better, we start building our chip factories here. I think you're going to see a run on people like AMD. So I would say examine the chip universe, find the chip stocks, right? Because cars suck right now. Like the cars are so expensive, the new and the used ones. So that's going to get a correction. So when there's an aberration in the market, you want to be the other guy. You want to go the other direction, right? You want to buy I always say buy when there's blood, even if it's your own. So buy the blood. Even if it's like a terrible time to buy, you think it's pessimistic, that's when you buy. That's a Warren Buffett thing, right? Even buy when it's so down and people are in disrepair. That's when you start buying. But buy slowly. You don't have to buy quick. You'll never find the bottom and you'll never find the top. But the point is, it's always great to get in and get out at the right point. But you just don't trust yourself. Trust your discipline.
Excellent.
And that is buy slowly.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody like a young Manny or somebody looking to get into your line of business? What would you say?
Oh man, I think it's a great time, because things are more automated. People have technological skills like they never had before. Millennial people, the ones that have been sitting on the couch or sitting at home with their folks, got through the crisis, looking for something to do. You're in demand, but 90% of winning life is actually showing up. I think that's a Woody Allen line. 90% of winning is showing up. So you got to show up. So still do that work from home thing if you think so, but you got to press the flesh. You got to go and shake hands with people, eyeball people. It's all about trust. So trust and technology, right? So the 2 T's, trust and technology, trust but verify. And so the only way you're going to get verified is not in a chat room. You're going to get verified when you go shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye. And that's your trading partner or that's somebody you're selling to. You just can't buy online. I mean, online's okay if you're buying a toothbrush or whatever. Or you can buy shit online. I bought a lot of stuff online. But the point is that you got to go look and eyeball people. Ask people high-gain, open-ended questions. I'm a big fan for young people to get into the financial world. I would say go to the Main Street, hardcore Wall Street firms, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Credit Suisse, which is underwater right now. I used to work for. They're kind of taking a beating right now, right? But there are the hedge fund world out there. Like Millennium's a great place, to go work for. If you can find a seat. It's hard to find seats, you know what I mean? But if you have technological skills and you have a lot of enthusiasm, and you learn how to sell yourself, learn how to engineer an agreement and get people to agree that you're smart, and that you're productive, you're reliable, you are versatile, you got a variety of skills and you're easy to get along with, then that's a home run. You can get people to say yes then, but you got to be like a high value, low cost thing and don't get too greedy because the money always follows talent. That's kind of the way I look at it. skills equals dollars. So if you have the skills and you got the desire and enthusiasm, then you'll get people to buy you. And I think you'll have a great career.
How can our listeners connect with you online?
Oh, they can connect with me online. Manny Santayana. It's a mouthful, right?
It is. Manny Santayana.
Manny Santayana. MannySantayana at yahoo.com. I'm not that old. I don't have AOL. Manny Santayana at yahoo.com. And I think that's it. And you can look me up on Facebook Messenger. I'm there. All the time. I check it all the time.
Cool. All right. Manny Santayana, Do the Right Thing on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door Studio. Thanks for joining me.
I got it. Fear no man.
If you want to see more On the Stacks content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/onthestackspodcast or search the hashtag #OnTheStacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on The Stacks.